Yeah, I have you unmuted.
I'm sorry, say again.
No, I was looking to see if I had you unmuted. Okay.
All right. Hi, everyone. So, we are back with another installment of A Walk with My Angel video podcast. And we do have a special guest today. But before I introduce our beautiful special guest, I always want to start with a trigger warning. So, stillbirth is considered anything, a loss of a baby, anything after 20 weeks of gestation, and a miscarriage is anything 19 or lower. And both of those journeys, they feel very lonely, but we don't want you to walk it alone. So part of our trigger warning is to let you know that there are places like Talkspace, BetterHelp, or blackfemaletherapist.com, where you can schedule a session with a licensed therapist in the comfort of your own home or even your car, wherever you are. And on our Facebook page, The Walk with My Angel, I have listed some groups that are still functioning and pages you can go to for support or just to vent. This is a journey and it's a long one, but if you put in the work, it will lead to your healing. A brief note about this is that we will be discussing our personal journeys. Today, we are discussing infertility, and we will also be discussing a little bit about miscarriage and stillbirth. And if this is something that you may find triggering, we do ask that you log off on this broadcast, and that's perfectly fine if you do. Your mental health is important. And if you know you are not ready for this type of discussion, believe me, we get it. If this is still very hard for you, we understand. And we ask that you would seek out a pastoral counselor, professional therapist, or a loved one who knows you and has your best interests at heart and you can sit and share with them on those days where it gets really, really rough. So, with that being said, what is it that we're doing here? A broad definition. My normal co-host, Letitia Banks, and myself, Carissa Hoggabook, we discussed being angel mommies, and being an angel mommy has been compared to being inducted into a club that you never sought admission into, never even thought it would happen to you. Each month, you will join myself and my other hosts as we discuss the many different facets of that stillbirth journey. We discuss everything from trying to survive to ensuring we're thriving. But all of those things incorporated, this journey can be rough. We are not mental health professionals, but we know that stillbirth does touch every part of our lives, from money to relationships to rainbow babies and insensitive comments. We want to lay our lives bare to help somebody else through this journey because we know it can be hard. So, um, I want to also let you know that part of my personal journey through stillbirth, my personal journey actually began with infertility, which is the topic we're going to be discussing today. So we also want to make sure that we let you know that you have someone here for you. You have someone who you can just vent to. You can DM us, email us on Facebook as well as Instagram at Walk with My Angel, spelled all the way out. With all of that being said, I am going to introduce our very special guest, Miss Akila Dixon.
Yes.
Did I say your first
Hello.
name right? Did I pronounce your first name right? I hate to mispronounce
Aquila.
it.
Aquila.
Akila. Ooh,
Aquila.
so sorry. I am so sorry. I should have asked that beforehand. That's a basic information. Sorry about that. So, Akila, how has your month been? How has this month been for you?
So what are we in August?
I know,
And it's
right?
about over, isn't it?
It is
Yeah.
close to being over.
It, you know what? I can't even tell. It's been good, actually. I can't even tell you any highlights because it's gone by so fast. So
Yeah,
no
time
complaints over
flies.
here. It's been a really good month, and that's good to say. It's been a good month.
That is really good to say.
It is. Now that I think about it, that's good to say. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
So we know that my co-host Letitia, she's the one that invited you to be on this podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you actually agree to do the podcast?
Okay, so first of all, so thank you for having me. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story. What I didn't know, and she kind of touched a little bit about it, but you've experienced infertility. So this is going to be good if we can have a really good conversation about that. But the reason I wanted to do it was because I really wanted to share my story because there, like you said, we didn't ask to be, we were inducted into this. We didn't ask to be here, right? Mm-hmm. This is the one thing that I cannot control. And I just don't think people understand how tough it is. So I wanted to communicate that to people. And number one reason is this journey is really, really hard, right? Mm-hmm. And in my journey, it took us 8 years. Wow. So in most cases, or a lot of times, at the time I was going through discussion boards, through a lot of the research, and you'll see people become successful 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Mm-hmm. So by the time, 5 years go by, 6 years go by, it's like, is it going to happen for me?
Right.
And so so at that time, I was constantly trying to, it just needed hope. It was just, I needed something just to get me through the next month or the next 2 months or the next 3 months. So when I hear of someone who's experiencing infertility, my number one thing is just to give them hope. Just hope. Because I believe if you believe it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's going to, you don't know how, you don't know when, but it's going to happen.
That hope is a big thing. It was, for me, long story short, before I got married, someone prophesied to me that I would give birth to 3 kids.
Oh, okay.
That's wonderful hope. But at the time, I wasn't concerned about having kids. I wasn't even married yet. I wasn't concerned about raising little people. That wasn't on my mind. Fast forward to after being married, now I'm ready for kids and I can't get pregnant.
How old were you?
I was 22.
Okay. Okay.
That's ripe age, right? You would think I could get pregnant without even thinking. I could breathe and get pregnant at 22. That's what you would think. Mm-hmm. But that's not what happened. And having that hope tucked in my back pocket, having that hope, it got me through a lot of just gut-wrenching days. So have you
when
always
you say gut-wrenching, you're absolutely correct. See, you say, so you were 22, so I was, I've been with my husband forever. I met him when I was 10. So when we got married, yeah. So so by the time we got married, and I got married at 24, we were ready for children, right? We've been together forever. So that, we were ready for children. And so at 24, I kind of knew we were going to have issues because before we got, college and everything, I'm like, I think we're going to have some problems. So I remember the thought was like, I hope I get a job that that has really good insurance. So I kind of knew that we were going to have issues. So at 24, we officially said, let's start having children. Mm-hmm. But, of course, they say, you're young, you have the cycles every month, so let's just wait a year. I have to wait a year. So we waited a year, nothing happened. So, of course, we did. We started to go to the doctors, and we did the whole full, workup. They did his part. They looked at my tubes, my uterus, everything was fine. However, they did say that our best chance was in vitro fertilization. You have other options, before, less invasive options, but they told us our best option was that. So at, 25, 26, I'm going through the procedure, So we did that, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So we got a negative. That was gut wrenching. But this is really only 2-3 years, not only, but 2 years or so into it.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, some years go by. All in the discussion boards. I know everything about infertility. Everything, the latest thing. We even went to acupuncture. We did everything. I did everything. Everything. So then we decided to go back. We went to another doctor, and this time, when we went, we were successful. That was awesome, because I think at this point we're 4 years in. We were successful, but guess what I started doing? We were successful, and all I could think of, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. I'm verbalizing, something's going to happen. This is my whole body, something's going to happen. And sure enough, at 6 weeks, something happened. And so I don't know what they call it, but we miscarried. And the day I found out that I miscarried, we were moving from Colorado to Texas the next day. So that was tough. That was tough. So then again, like I said, we're 4 years in, so miscarried on that one. Got here to Texas, and again, I'm just head down research. And then finally, I want to say maybe 6 or 7. Now, again, during this time, I'm like, it's not happening. Every month, it's not happening. We're in year 5, like I stated earlier. Most people, I want to say 90% of people, they end up successful after 1 or 2 or 3 years. But now I'm on year 6, and I'm like, is this gonna work? I remember I was in, you were Christ, gut wrenching. So I remember one time I was in the shower, and I almost bawled and bawled. And I'm like, I just need something. So I'm praying. I'm like, I just need something. I mean, literally, I need something. I need hope. I need something. And let me tell you what God did. Now, remember, at this time, I'm on, because I needed hope. I'm in years 6, 7. I'm searching. Is anybody successful after 5 years, after 6 years? I know all about the success rate for, 3 and 4 year olds. 3 and 4 years, but is anybody successful in long term? I'm reaching. So this is when I'm crying and praying. But let me tell you what God did. So I want to say very soon after that, maybe a week or so after that, I'm at work. I'm working from home, but I'm at work. This new lady comes in our department. She now works with us in our department. And somehow we got to talking or whatever. And we were talking, and somehow, because I've always been open about this. So I started talking about it, and she shared with me that she had experienced infertility, and that she finally got pregnant after 10 years. When I tell you that's all I needed at that time, I just needed just this much. Because I literally been searching long-term infertility, success after long-term infertility. And I'm just praying. And I'm like, God, I just need something. And within that week, he brings this lady, and she said, after 10 years, and it gave me a little bit more. And I just held on a little bit more. I said, that God of ours is awesome. Because that's all I needed.
A little bit and a little bit and a little bit to
yes.
the next step.
Yes.
And so that's what I might not do it. Tell me all of it. I ain't gonna do it. But just give me a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yes.
So during your journey, how did your doctor clearly describe if it could be treated, or did they just skip, if this doesn't work?
No, no. They told her they were leaning towards, now that I look back on it, it's probably a combination, but they were leaning towards male infertility. And so they were just saying, we can try these other things, but, your best option would be IVF. We could have done, I forgot what they call them, but it's a couple of things you can do before you get to that place. But they were like, well, you probably won't be successful. This would be your best option. And then I had a small percentage with that. So,
can you tell us what in vitro can you tell us what IVF is?
Yeah, well, you just said in vitro fertilization. It's in vitro fertilization. And it's when they, I don't know, many people know, but it's a whole process you got shots and everything, within that whole process. But basically, it's when, after you build up your eggs, and then you take the sperm, they inject the sperm into the egg, and now it becomes an embryo. And then and then after so many days or whatever, then they transfer it back into my uterus. And then we pray and hope that we're pregnant. Yeah. And we did 4 cycles.
Okay.
Of that.
How long did the cycle last?
How long does a cycle last? What was the question? So I mean, I guess it's like a whole month, because you have to go through the whole, building your eggs, your follicles. Just, I don't want to say maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but we had to do. So when I say cycles, I did a fresh cycle of IVF. I did 3 fresh cycles of IVF. So I did IVF 3 times, and then I had a frozen embryo. So one of the fresh cycles, we had some embryos that we were able to freeze. And then I was able to, when it was time, was able to use the frozen embryos and transfer those back. So it took us 4 attempts. Ultimately, it took us 4 attempts to be successful.
Okay. How did the treatments affect you emotionally?
The treatment or the whole process?
Okay, the whole process.
The whole process was very emotional. As far as the treatments, it was just something we had to do. You just did it. Like I said, part of it is we had to, I had to do shots. I didn't do my own shots, so Fred did the shots for me every day. So that was like a daily thing that I had to get shots either in my abdomen or in my buttocks. So that was interesting. And then during that process, we had to, or I had to go to the doctor like every other day to get ultrasounds to see how I'm progressing as far as how my eggs and things are progressing. So, I mean, I think I handled it pretty well. It was just, this is what I need to do if I wanted to have a baby. So, yeah.
How did you explain that to your friends and family?
It wasn't tough for me. I think it was just because I'm an open person. Nothing, I'm not that private. What you see is what you get. So everybody knew we were trying to have children. So this is what we had to do. So I just told them this is what we were doing.
I had to get there.
Did you?
I was not open about it at all.
Really?
Why I wasn't? It was a combination of guilt and embarrassment, I think.
I can see it, but I did not. I didn't go out shouting to everybody, but as far as my family and friends, they all knew, especially my really, really close friends. Oh, they sat there, they listened to me all day, every day. For 8 years, that's what my conversation was, and so they were just excited when I got pregnant because that's all I talked about. But yeah.
I had to mature. Let's say that I had to mature to that.
Really? But what was it? I mean, what were you embarrassed about?
I was embarrassed because it felt like I was a failure. That's the way it felt. And it felt like people were going to judge me for going through this. For me, my infertility came from polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it's where your ovaries have a whole bunch of cysts on it, and some are benign, some you get surgically removed. But that's where my infertility came from. And it wasn't until I started to research what it was, and I started doing the research myself and acclimating myself with what causes it. You just born with it. There's no way, there's no cure.
That's the one thing about infertility. You know how we think we can, if we just study hard, it'll happen. We're just good, it'll happen. That's the one thing about infertility. It is outside of your control.
Even you can
nothing you can
do. And still, it can be absolutely nothing there. And for me, I was embarrassed that I couldn't do something that I felt like all women could do. And it made me shut my mouth. One thing about one thing about the enemy is that he will use guilt and shame to make you shut up.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing I learned. By doing all of that in silence, I pretty much allowed myself to be tortured in my own silence.
Oh wow.
And it hurt so much more because I could have had the support I needed. I could have
See,
had,
but do you see the difference
yeah,
with you're right, because I'm saying that, you know what, I didn't have any issues. I let I was very open, and I talked my girlfriend's heads off, so you're right. I mean, you're
So
right.
with
So
you,
in silence is, yeah.
so with you being very open about it, you were able to get that support. So when you say you went through the 4 cycles, you had that support system. So when it didn't happen, um, you had the support system to be there for you.
hmm and
Yeah,
that's
but
what
that
made
doesn't take away how tough it is, though.
Mhm.
It was tough. Every month you have a cycle. You have a period, and then you go through these. I go, for the IVF, and it fails, and I'm now on year 8. I'm not on year 2. I'm
hmm
not on year 3.
hmm
I'm not on year 5. I'm on year 8. That's almost 10 years, and
Mhm.
when I tell you, it consumed a lot of everything that I did. It did, but I did have an outlet. But why? Why? You asked that question. Why? I just want to just give me one. I just want one. Why isn't it happening? I didn't understand it. And I went through those things in my head as well. But oftentimes I was just searching for a little bit of hope. And I
just a little
I
piece
did a
of
lot of crying. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So with you going to the doctor every day, so the doctor is explaining to you that that it didn't work, or how did you find out?
When I was going to the doctor, that's part of the cycle. So you have to, they have to do ultrasounds. They have to
Mhm.
see, because you have to take these medicines, these medications, and what it does, it helps you grow eggs, right? So every month, a normal person would have 1 or 2 eggs, right? Well, to
Right.
be successful in IVF, you want to maximize the number of eggs that you have. And so I take this medication, and what that does is it gives me eggs. So and so when I go for the ultrasound, they have to be a certain size before they're ready to extract them. They have to retrieve the eggs. So they can't be very immature. They have to be a certain size, and then they retrieve them. Because remember, I said IVF is when they take the egg, they take the sperm, and that's when, and then they try and put them together. So what they're trying to do is you go for example, 13 eggs. So you can have 13 eggs to be fertilized. So anyway, so that's when I said I was going every day. That's kind of every other day. That's kind of what I was doing. They were checking my blood work to see where my hormones and stuff. Oh, I learned all about hormones, progesterone, estrogen. They have to check the lining of my uterus. So when I am ready to transfer the embryos, your uterus got to be a certain, your uterus, the blood. So this is why we have menstrual cycles. I learned really why. You have the lining of your uterus has to be just right. So when that embryo is implanted, it's like it's snug. It gets to snug into, your uterus. So they had to check all of that. So when I went, they were doing a lot of that kind of stuff to make sure that my body is in its optimal, state. So when it's ready, I'll be ready. But other than that, I want to say real quick. So they tell you, what's going on. They look at the paperwork, and they tell you, this is where you guys are at, and this is what your options are. And then I remember we did do one attempt after we were successful with my baby girl. We did do another attempt after that, and when we went to the doctor, they had told us you need to hurry up because your egg reserve is dwindling. Meaning, if you don't know, when women are born, all the eggs they're going to have when they're born. So each month, if you're having a cycle, you're losing an egg or two. So at some point, you don't have a lot of eggs left, right? And so he was like, hey, if you want to try this again, you can get in here within the next 6 months. So I often tell people, and I know this is just from my experience, we often talk from our own experience, whether it applies to somebody else. But when I hear women say, oh, I want to wait until, 36, 37. Oh, in my mind, I'm like,
wait a minute.
I'm like, man, your egg quality begins to go down. And I know women 40, 42, 43 have children, but I need them to know, just know this may be a possibility for you. So, so I know I kind of went on a tangent.
I always tell, like, my family, my cousins, my younger cousins, I would tell them, just go get the blood work done. Even if you don't want kids for the next 10 years, just go see. You got to go check. So how did your husband do during this time where y'all were going back and forth?
I mean, I probably was so, can you get, you want it outside? That's a good question. I think he felt the same way I did, but displayed it a lot differently. I'm, dramatic, and everybody knows what's going on. I don't know, how he communicated. We communicate with each other, but I don't know. We're gonna have a podcast with him on and ask him. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Questions. I know my husband, he's really a very positive guy. Like, everything's going to be all right. So for me, I had moments of, I can't talk to my husband because he's going to tell me
that's not what you want to hear.
And that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to cry, and I wanted to be angry. And I knew my husband wasn't going to have that. So I was like, you know what? Today is going to be a day where we go walk in the park by ourselves, and we just gonna cry, and we gonna pray we don't get kidnapped. That's just what's gonna happen today.
Yeah. Okay. How long did it take you until you were? I know you're the other side of your story, but how long did it take you when you finally?
It took 6 years.
You know the battle.
It took us 6 years, and yeah, after that, I got real mad.
Oh yes, when she's. Oh, I couldn't even. You would just put me under. Just put me under. If that was my story, I couldn't handle it. Oh, gosh.
And then he's stillborn.
Oh.
This is what we're doing now.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh. And the one thing when I did get pregnant, I have to say, I don't know what I would have done if that was my experience. That would have broke me. And it's amazing that you're sitting right here and you're able to talk about it, but that would have broke me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that would have broke me. That just that tells you how God is good because he brought you through that. But that would have broke me. But my pregnancy, I had a great pregnancy. When I tell you, it was great. I was in maternity clothes before I was even showing. It's been 8 years. So I want everybody to know. And everybody like, she got, and I would have maternity clothes with the bow, I wanted to know it was a maternity shirt. So it's like, is she pregnant? But I love every bit of it. Every bit of it. And I thank God that it went well. I had no problem to the point when I was pregnant, I wanted all the morning sick. I wanted all of that and got none of it.
What you looking?
I needed something, right? I needed some reassurance, but I got none of it. None of it. But that's okay. It happened and she's here. Yeah. So yeah.
What would you describe, if any, were the lasting effects of the treatments? Did you have any lingering effects of it?
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know. I'm getting older. So, I mean, these are, they were, I was taking they were not taking, but they were messing with my hormones, right? They were manipulating my hormones to kind of control when, things happen instead of, the normal way. They were like, okay, take this medicine. This is when this is going to happen. This is when your progesterone, this is when your estrogen is going to be. But now that I'm older and I'm almost kind of going, I'm approaching the whole menopause and period, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if if it's an impact there. I don't know, but right now, I haven't felt any side effects as a result, which is good.
So did you have one doctor the whole time? Would you recommend that doctor to someone who's looking for someone?
Yeah, I had two doctors. Like I said, I started off in Colorado, so I wouldn't recommend that one. But the one I had here, yeah, I would. Yeah, he was. I mean, and the reason I would because I was successful. That's the number one thing. And
Right,
he delivered what he said he was going to deliver. So, yeah,
that's really good. So, what advice or encouragement would you give someone who is on that same journey that you're on now?
Like I mentioned earlier, and this is the whole thing about all of this is hard. It's gut wrenching. You don't know why, but somehow you just need, because when you lose hope, it's a downward spiral when you lose hope. So I knew enough that I needed hope. If I didn't have anything else, I needed hope. So that's what I was always praying for. That's what I was always searching for. And God knew this because it happened twice. It was another time where I was crying on my knees. And within that night, I think he revealed to me and I said, okay. I mean, it was just so clear. So it's just believe. I mean, and when I say believe, and I know it's hard when you're in it, but just, God gives us the desires of our heart. We're here, a lot of us are here to bear children. So I believe that. And I got to the point to where, because he had shown me when I asked, I was like, I literally say, give me a sign. And when he did it, I knew it was going to be okay. So from that point on, I knew that it was going to happen. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but I just knew it was going to happen. And so like on the last attempt, it was in that 8th year, on that last attempt, I want to say like in June, July of that year, we did the attempt, I failed. And when I tell you that shattered me, but at that point I was exhausted. And you know how insurance works, you have a deductible. And at that point we had met our deductible, but we had frozen embryos. And so I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead and let's just transfer, these embryos before the year is out. I was very nonchalant about it. Because at first, when you go through these attempts and they transfer the embryos, you would kind of look for signs. You may go take a test before you're supposed to take a test. All the stuff you're not supposed to do, but you do. But this time, I was just like, let's just go. So we don't have to pay the deductible. If we do it next year, we already maxed that out. Let's just go. And I didn't go check nothing. It was what it was. When I tell you, I said, Fred, because I was getting this nose thing. Now we did, and I take it back, we did do a test. But I wasn't supposed to, but we did do a test. And when I tell you that thing came back positive, we just sat there.
Girl,
we just sat there. We took a pregnancy test, and but we were cautious. You're gonna be cautious. We were cautious. We went and they confirmed. And then at that point, all you do is try and get through the next milestones. As you probably know, both of you know, when you're pregnant, you just want to get past 12 weeks and you want to get past, viability, right? And so that's kind of what we were doing. And when she got here, when I tell you, we just put her in the bed and just looked at her. We just looked at her. This is unbelievable. Because it's 8 years.
We did. Is that real? Is she real?
Yes.
Is she leaving?
Yes.
My hair wake up and she's gonna be gone. Have I been
yes. Yes. So that's what I would, that's what I would tell someone who's experiencing it. Just believe. And I hate to say it like that because it's so cliche. But just know it just don't just know it, but know it. And like I say, we don't know when, we don't know how, but just know. And I want to say, it took me a minute to get there, but I got there. And just know it is. And real quick, it was my at my old job, one of my managers was sharing with me about her daughter who was experiencing infertility, and we would have these long conversations, and I would just tell her, it happened, it'll happen. And when it did happen for her daughter, she just sent me the ultrasound, and she said, "Oh, my daughter was, it'll happen. You don't know when, you don't know how, but that's all and I truly, I believe it. And I just need people who are trying, look at my story. It didn't happen in year 2, year 4, year 5. It happened in year 8, and it may happen in year 10 for some people, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I got to believe it.
To give myself grace. To give myself grace. Like, okay, you're trusting in God to do something that man tells you can't happen.
Right.
So, there might be some stumbles. There are going to be some failures in there, and you can't beat yourself up. I had to learn during this time that I was dealing with infertility. The church I was going to at the time, we did a negativity fast, and that negativity fast came at the perfect time. So it was 21 days of when you have a negative thought, you catch it, you deal with it, and you keep going, and you replace it with a positive thought. So that was, when I tell you that was a 21 days that changed my life, I am a completely different person.
Wow.
After the fast, because I was confronted with my own thoughts. So now
you know how negative you were. Yeah.
I didn't realize it until you have to take stock of the thoughts that you think and the words that you say, until you're held accountable. That's the word. Until you're held accountable for what you say and what you think, you don't realize how negative you think, or you don't realize how slothful, like, I'll take care of it tomorrow, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do that tomorrow. You don't realize that until you're held accountable. And once I was held accountable,
you're conscious of it. When you're conscious of it and you're looking for it.
It was 180-degree turn for me, and it changed the way I saw my journey. And I learned that I had to give myself grace, and I had to throw away the rest of it because it didn't serve me. And once I figured out to give myself grace through that journey, it became easier. It didn't negate the negative things.
That's right.
It didn't negate it. It didn't it didn't make them feel any less devastating in the moment, but the recovery afterwards was much shorter. The time that I spent beating myself up, it took a lot less time. Okay, this test was a negative. This sonogram showed nothing. Okay, we're gonna keep going. We're going to keep trying, because I know God gave me a promise. So I'm going to hold on to that promise. Like, I am holding on for dear life, because I am.
Yes.
I am holding on
right there. Yes.
Dear life. And I'm not going to stop until I get to where God told me I'm going to get. And giving myself grace, that is the one thing that it saved me more than once. Telling myself, it's okay. You're going to be okay. This is not the end. Keep going.
That's the one thing about, we're talking about infertility, but we all have our different experiences. Everybody is different. So that's, I'm loving listening to your experience, because they are a little bit different. Now the hurt, that we've gone through was very, very, just the same. We understand each other from that point of view. But how we viewed it is a little bit different, and it's interesting. Okay.
So how would you, so like, for, let's say we have a friend and they're walking through this infertility journey, what would you tell the people surrounding that person? Like, what advice would you give to the husband or the mother or the...
Good question. That's a good because the reason I say it's a good question because I haven't I should have thought about it, and I guess I have a little bit, but remember, my experience has been I was always open, so people were always listening, so I didn't really, experience that. But I would say, well, obviously, just listen, be sensitive, think about what you're saying, because oftentimes, and I go back and forth because you may hear people say, well, you guys been married for 10 years. When are you going to have children? And people don't know, what their challenges are or if they even want children, or if they do, what's going on. I don't know, but that's a good question. I can tell you what. Well, I can tell you what my friends did. They just listen. They listen. And when I tell you, like I'm doing here, when I tell you I ramble, and they just listen and they just roll with me. So I think that's the thing. So just listen, get in there with her, get in there with her and just be there. I think that's that's why maybe my experience may be a little bit different from a lot of other people because I didn't have to hold it in. I didn't have to. They let me talk about it every single day to the point to where I remember when I had her, one of my friends, well, of course she wasn't as excited as I was, but I tell you, she was excited because she heard me every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So that would be it. So let her know that you're willing to hear and listen to whatever it is. Don't be like, or be excited to hear what she has to say. Yeah. I think that was the difference. I didn't feel like I was being a burden to my friends. They were in there with me. They literally was in there with me. So that's what I would say. Let her feel comfortable in talking to you because that is the gift. And I'm just thinking this out as we're talking because that is the gift. Because if you feel like you can talk to her, because you don't want to keep this stuff in you. And when you feel like somebody is really listening to you and you feel like they are, that's the biggest gift you can give them. Whether it be your husband, your friend, whomever, if you can be that person for her, you don't know what you're doing for her. You don't know what think about it. If you had opened up, if you had somebody like that, even if you were, like you said, you felt shame and you felt like a failure. If you can just talk to somebody, about that, and they just listen, and there was no judgment. Yeah, I think you would have felt so much. You would have still felt the way you felt, but just to talk about it.
Yes, just to get it off your chest, to release the weight. I know for me,
I feel like it's a burden on them. I tell you, I got 3 good ones. I got 3 good friends, and every one of them listen. They all listen.
Good.
Yes.
And I got a lot of questions of when you gonna have a baby, when you gonna have a baby, when you gonna have a baby, and knowing that some of the people that were asking the question, they wasn't asking out of trying to understand my well-being. They were just asking to be nosy as to why we weren't having kids. Wow. That was a big deterrent of trying to express what I was really going through because I'm like, I know you don't really care.
Okay. So did you feel like? So do you feel like that if you? Because I know you're saying. I know you're told. You're saying that you were the reason that you kept everything to yourself. But do you think there was 1 or 2 people that if you had decided to let it out, that you could have, and it would have been much better for you?
Yes, absolutely. I did have. I do remember having one moment over a friend's house where I just broke down in tears and I just boo-hoo cried. And I was like, I'm broken and I don't know what I did to deserve this. And I don't know how to fix it. And I just boo-hoo cried. And she was one that was like, well, girl, you want to spend the night over here?
Yes. It's great. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was right before we did. That was like a week before we did the negativity fast, and it came right on time.
Mhm.
Um, I also wanted to ask you, um, have you told your daughter about how she was conceived and
But
born? Like, did
see,
you understand the
I
process?
have not. And I have not. And I have to say, the first time I really thought about that question, or thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
should I have I told her? Should I? How the whole was was this was
Mm-hmm.
this
Mhm.
here? Being invited here because now it's out there, and I'm like, and I don't know.
If she's ready for that
Should
conversation.
I? It did make me think. But I haven't said exactly what we did. But she knows that it took us 8 years. She knows that we had to
Mm-hmm.
go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She knows all about that, but she doesn't know the mechanics of it. And at this
Mm-hmm.
point, I don't even know if it matters. Maybe when she's older, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't even
Mhm.
think it because I carried her for 9 months. I
Mm-hmm.
carried her, you
Right.
know.
But that's all you
So
need to know.
yeah, it's almost as if like
She,
if we did the
she,
conventional way, she would need to
yeah.
know that either,
So,
So
so like right now, it's like
I'm not hiding it from her, but it's not anything that I think.
if it came up, then you would discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And her name, so her name is Albany. And just a quick story about that. So her name is Albany. So like I told you guys that it took us 8 years. And so, when we're pregnant, you want to give names for your babies. I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all these names out there. And I knew I want a meaning, her name to mean something. So I'm like, how do I narrow this down? I said, okay, you know what? Let me just start with A. My name starts with an A. Let's find our name that starts with an A with a meaning. Well, I had went to church one Sunday and the pastor had said his daughter's name and her name was Albany. I said, oh, okay. That starts with an A. Albany. What does that mean? I went and looked up what that name means. And you know what that name means, Carissa?
What?
It means girl prayed for. I said, oh, that's
Wow.
it. That's it. That's it. I mean, because that's all we've been doing for 8 years. So that's what her first name means, girl prayed for. So she knows this. So whenever she thinks about her name, she's going to know that she was wanted forever,
Yeah.
right? That's what she knows. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that name.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
That is a
Yes.
beautiful meaning.
Thank you. Yep.
Miss Letitia, did you have anything you wanted to add before we start to close out?
If someone wanted to reach you, how could they get in contact with you? Like if someone wanted to maybe talk to you personally and have questions, how would they get in contact with you?
Well, if they contact you guys, just give them my email address. So my email address is my first name and my last name, Aquila, D as in dog, IXON at hotmail.com. So yeah, they can just reach me there. But if you know somebody, that's experiencing it, I don't have any problems with them reaching out to me. Stuff I love to talk about. So
Okay.
Wonderful. So, guys, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We want to thank our special guest for
did I
tuning
ramble enough?
in with us. No, it was wonderful. You didn't ramble at all. I
All right.
We want to thank you because we know that this is a very personal journey and
Yes.
it can be triggering for some people. So we really do thank you for coming and telling us your story and being authentically you and however you're. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. I want to remind our viewers that if you have any questions about stillbirth, miscarriage, our experiences, my experience with infertility, or if you want to know how to support someone else who is experiencing a loss or who's walking through infertility, if you have any questions, you can post them on our Facebook or our Instagram page at A Walk with My Angel on Instagram and on Facebook. Walk with My Angel without the A. You can message us either of those places. If you want to email us, like you have a lot to say, which is I love. I like details. You can email us at awalkwithmyangel@gmail.com. We are always open to have conversations, to give you the encouragement that you need, because we know that hope is a stepping stone through the journey, and every
Right.
little bit of hope helps. But we truly want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you'll join us again in September, where we will have another special guest that will join us. Again, we are A Walk with My Angel, and we want to support you through this journey. We hope you have a wonderful evening. You have a good night.
Good night.